Well, here we go, Zach. Turin Giants Podcast number 266. I'm so happy to be back. My name is Farhad. I'm the host that loves you most. I'm joined here by Zach, and we'll be discussing the Derby della Mole, the very important win that happened yesterday. Ways to listen to us is Spotify, Apple Podcast, Pocket Casts, and we're trying to add YouTube. So this episode will probably be on YouTube due to popular demand. You guys have been asking, and I posted a video of the last podcast that Zach did with Kevin, and I appreciate you guys stepping in and helping me out. Kevin is out due to family reasons. Wish him nothing but the best. He held down the fort with you, Zach. I appreciate you guys. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man, it's always great to talk after a win, so I'm doing great.
Well, let's get into it. And of course, a hello from your favorite guy, man. Here we go.
Buongiorno. Come ha detto lei, buongiorno.
I'm not even sure people realize who this is. Like I never really announced that this is Vlahovic, but yeah, we're joined by Alessandro Del Piero. And speaking of Del Piero, we heard the commentator calling his famous goal, and we have a reason to celebrate the GOAT turning 50. Isn't that crazy? There's something about Italian football players; they just don't get old, do they?
Well, they don't. And he doesn't look it either. I mean, it's crazy how time passes.
Not.
And when you go look at those old the World Cup winning team, all those guys, some of them look ancient now. Like I think Nesta kind of shows his age, but Del Piero looks great. I don't know what's in the food he eats or what's in his restaurant, but he's doing it right.
I'm signed up for Arnold Schwarzenegger's. It's a daily newsletter. I like him. He's a positive guy, motivational guy, and they do a lot of research. He has like a team that posts fitness and nutrition facts and stuff like that. And literally, olive oil. If you're looking for fountain of youth, it just adds years to your life. So I've been on it's not pleasant to drink, but I try to add it whenever I can. And I guess that's it. I know you and Del Piero, you guys didn't overlap much, which is fine. We're rejuvenating, no pun intended, the Turin Giants podcast, and a lot of people may not even seen him. But let me tell you guys, it was magical. My first game seeing Del Piero was the Champions League final in 1996. I started out strong with Juve, but then Champions League finals just kept getting worse and worse, and I haven't seen a win since. And but Del Piero was him. Don't look at Del Piero now and an older gray-haired gentleman. He would rip defenses apart, and I think part of it was that they underestimated him. He was not the biggest guy, but he would humiliate the crap out of the teams and score important goals. And yeah, I mean, when he won the World Cup, for me, I was so happy for him, because that's Buffon and Del Piero together winning the World Cup was amazing. Happy birthday to the GOAT. Happy 50th. And boy, did they celebrate. Yildiz, huh? I was so happy for him. It was how would you describe the new era in the Juve lore. Like scoring on Del Piero's birthday, number 10, doing the Del Piero celebration. I know we're jumping ahead where we'll talk about the Torino game and break it down, but it's just a great moment in Juve history, in the modern Juve history, isn't it?
You have some alignment between Yildiz's rise and Del Piero. I mean, you have the first goal he scored exactly mirroring Del Piero's cut-in curler goal, and then you have him scoring on Del Piero's 50th birthday. I mean, sometimes, and I'm not getting ahead of myself, I promise you, but sometimes fate can sometimes be written for a certain player for a certain moment, and it certainly seems like the Yildiz Del Piero sort of alignment is been written in fate for those two, and it's been fantastic for a fan to observe.
Oh! Mamma mia!
No, Uncle Beppe was happy for sure. Well, shall we get into it? Let me. So as always, we're referencing footitalia.com. Shout outs to Rav. He's been very busy, unable to join us. But speaking of Yildiz, let's read a couple of sentences here from footitalia.com article. In a thrilling conclusion to the Juventus Torino match, Kenan Yildiz sealed the 2-0 victory with a spectacular diving header and sent the Juventus stadium into raptures. The young Turkish talent, wearing the iconic number 10 jersey, not only found his name on a score sheet, but also captured the hearts of fans with his celebration. Yildiz's goal celebration was a touching tribute to Juventus legend Alessandro Del Piero, who is coincidentally celebrated his 50th birthday on the same day. Beautiful game to witness. I actually watched it with my son, and I told him all about Del Piero, and then witnessing Yildiz score was just iconic. I don't use that word lightly, as a lot of youths do, but that was truly iconic. In 10 years, we'll be looking back at that. And I love how he caught the keeper against the grain. It's just such a smart move for a 19-year-old. And I was looking at my son, who's 8, and I was like, can you imagine how good you have to be that you in 11 years are wearing the number 10 for you? It's just like those 10 years is nothing, and you have to be just mind-boggling good to represent Juve and wearing the number 10. And
Well, think about
it. He's repaying the. Go ahead, sorry, buddy.
I mean, at this point, though, you see how good he is. Well, now he scored with his head. He scored those 2 left-footed goals against Inter. He scored with the right-footed curler. He's showing how multifaceted he is. He's showing his strength physically, his mental strength, because after that first game, he had several games where he just was kind of absent. He's really showing all the qualities mentally and technically to be that next step. And we just need to continue. We as the fan base and we, the coaching staff, need to continue to nurture his development, because the sky is the limit when you look at a guy with his skill set.
Crazy. And by the way, your reels, a little background story here. Zach writes great scripts, and he records the audio and he sends it over to me. Shout outs to Nilesh, our guy who makes the reels for Turin Giants Instagram page. By the way, follow us at Turin Giants. And if you like the shirt, since we're on camera, I might as well show it off. The Predator Boots shirt by Del Piero and Zidane. Please go to TurinGiants.com. Help us out. Buy a sticker or two. We've had a few orders, thankfully, thanks to a little promotion that Kevin did on the podcast. So yeah, if you want to support our podcast, please go to TurinGiants.com, buy some merch. But I totally forgot where I was going with this. But
something reels.
the reels, Zach is excellent narrator, and we create reels and with his audio. And you mentioned a few reels ago how, Yildiz is a big boy, and he at 19 years old, the skill set is so dangerous, and he's only going to get better. Knock on wood. By the way, new standing desk. How about this? Farhad is a little free. I hated sitting down because I have a terrible back. I have a back of a a million-year-old fossil. So standing up is feeling nice. But yeah, it's crazy how good he is. Hopefully he stays injury free, and we'll continue to
I mean, how terrified were you
marvel.
when he went down late in the game with that awkward thing? How terrified were you that was like a knee or something? Man, I wrote down, and for those who do listen, I'm very much a handwritten notes guy, and I wrote, "Get him off, again, take him off, don't aggravate. We can't have an injury." And maybe fortunately they kept him on, and then he scores the goal just a couple minutes later. But man, I was terrified.
No contact
terrified.
going down in the field is just so scary. But yeah, thankfully everything worked out. Shall we talk a little bit about the game? So I have this new pulled up Thiago Motta's. As always, we examine our coaches' remarks after the game. Motta expressed satisfaction with the result and the team's display, stating, "It's always important to play with balance. We put in another excellent performance. I'm happy with both the performance and the result. It wasn't easy to face the third match of the week, but we played with a solid and a concrete game. We deserved the victory." Did they deserve it? Absolutely. Torino was
absolutely
right. What did they say? Torino's last win at our stadium was 1995, and
a long time ago. And look, we're going to talk. There's I think almost only positives to talk about from the game for the most part. I want to qualify that just a little bit to saying this Torino team is kind of in free fall right now. They have been performing very badly in the league after starting super hot. I think we took advantage in a home game for us of a team has several injuries and currently is kind of losing themselves a little bit. So you hit the team at the right moment, and then you do the professional thing and you win the game. So I think that sort of underpins all the positives that we're going to talk about. And I think, when you turn to those positives, Farhad, this is a game that I think demonstrated exactly how Motta wants our team to play from a tactical sense, or from an overall formation tactical sense, how individually how we want certain players to play. And I think two focus areas on that would be the left side of the field, the Yildiz Cambiasso Thuram interchange, and then secondly, how this Thuram Locatelli Koopmeiners midfield is that we've seen it now 3 games in a row, I believe, that has been very effective. I think these at the heart of those two interchanges kind of can show you what Motta wants, how he wants our team to play, and with the game, the success that we can have when we play that way.
You mentioned Thuram. Am I just a hater, or
yes,
he needs time?
Look, I wrote on my board. Farhad, I'm so glad you asked, because it was several episodes ago. And look, maybe it's me keeping receipts or something. But you said
I created a monster.
I'm calling you out right now on your own show. But you said, "Man, we just got the worst Thuram brother, didn't we?" And I wrote that down.
Well, to be fair, there's 2, right? Unless I know about a kid heard of.
You were comparing Kefram to Marcus, right? And Marcus Thuram is playing brilliantly right now, no question. But I think that's a little unfair to Kefram. We saw at a time where he wasn't getting a ton of gameplay. It was at that time you said it was kind of soon after the Fajoli McKennie stuff. He just came in as a sub. He had a little knock early in the year as well. And I think it was unfair to judge a player before we see him get a run of games. Well, he got a run of games. I think he started several games. We've seen this now, a trio of Coop, Locatelli, Thuram. And while his weakness, and this is going to be weird to say for a midfielder, is his passing accuracy, I think he averages about 80% passing accuracy, which is a little bit low for a midfielder. But if anyone who watched him play previous to us, that wasn't really his game. His game was more of a ball winner and a dribbler. And he showed his versatility on both sides of the play in the last couple games, working with Cambiasso and Yildiz perfectly in space to balance that movement, to show the vision, I think, Motta's vision, and how they should work together. And that maybe something was lacking a little bit when we had maybe Fajoli play over there, because the few times he was in Metzala, when McKennie was over there, didn't necessarily interchange quite as well. And I'm really feeling optimistic in how that midfield trio is working with Thuram, as well as how Thuram can then interchange with Cambiasso and Yildiz on the left, which for those who listen, has been kind of ongoing conversation. Does Yildiz need to play in? Does he need to play out? How does Cambiasso affect that? Well, I think this game demonstrated exactly the upside of the Cambiasso inverted fullback with Yildiz out wide, and it relies on the balance of a midfielder like Thuram to rotate into the spaces vacated by those two players.
So you mentioned Fagioli. Where does that leave him? Because I saw him on the bench. Somebody was getting subbed out. Keeping a gem like that, Nicky Beans on the bench. I know we need rotation, but our midfield is quite overloaded, isn't it?
It's a great problem to have. Great problem to have.
Absolutely.
That's the first thing. Yeah, it's like we rewind to last year where we're all like, our midfield stinks. Get rid of all these guys, right? Now you're just like, your midfield stacked. That's a good problem to have. Okay, and you want people competing for spots. So the first thing is I'm glad that a midfield that's been playing well for us is getting a run of games. We've talked about on the podcast sometimes Mota maybe over rotates. When the guys are in form and playing well, let's ride it a little bit. Okay, we're going into an international break. We don't have not too many of our guys are being called up. Let's ride it. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is once we do need rotation, Fagioli predominantly will be playing in the Locatelli role. That's how Mota has done early in the year. That's how Mota has articulated, and Fagioli himself has articulated kind of the desired role would be in that Locatelli position. I think maybe it was Fagioli's rise that lit a fire under Locatelli's butt, and why he's been playing so well. Maybe it's the coach. Who knows what it is? But right now Locatelli's playing lights out. So give him the run of games. Let's ride the good form, and let's continue to win games on it.
Yeah, don't mess with something that's not broken. You're absolutely right. Locatelli, I'm glad you brought him up. I posted a screen grab of your last podcast. And by the way, shout outs to Luigi. It was a great addition. People enjoyed having a man from Torino kind of give his story. And we'll be having him more. He's a articulate, funny guy. So I appreciate it, Kevin, inviting a guest. So if you want to check out the last podcast dedicated to the game in Lille, I don't know how to pronounce that, but yeah, it was nice having a guest. But anyways, the screen grab that I posted got a lot of good comments, but there was one DM that I refused to answer the guy because he replied, he's like, "Time to sell." I was like, okay, I don't even know who he's talking about. Is it about Locatelli? It's like, Locatelli? He said, yeah, time to sell. Don't understand what he meant by that. Like, why would you do that? He's finally hitting the stride. But yeah, again, I know I've asked you that before, but there may be people tuning in that are new to the podcast. By the way, if you're new, go to Spotify and give us a 5-star review. That will really help us out. What's new about Locatelli? What happened that improved his game so much under Mota, which we're all happy because there was a lull for a couple of years and we kind of scratching our heads and thinking, what happened to Locatelli? He was such a rising talent, and there's certainly been a resurgence under Mota. What happened? What changed?
Well, I'll start with what stayed the same. So the one thing I was highlighting in our last episode is, at least this year, I think has gone underappreciated about his game is Locatelli's defensive efforts. This year and last year, Locatelli is like top 5, if not top 3 in almost every defensive category, which is just shocking for a midfielder. It's awesome to see. We know he loves to tackle players. That's the same. What's different is the emphasis of the coach on possession and how that possession is facilitated up the field. Last year, we talked about back pass FC. I think you called it, Farhad, right? Where our only opportunity to move the ball forward was forcing the ball down the flanks, sometimes very directly. That hurt our possession. I think we were certainly less than 50% possession. I think it was 48.5. I said in a previous episode. Last year, a lot more direct passing, a lot of forcing balls down the sideline. It didn't really give a midfielder a good opportunity to influence the game when we're booting the ball down the wings, hoping a guy like Chiesa at the time can make some magic happen. Now the emphasis is to work the ball with nice little triangles involving midfielders who are shuttling over to the side of the field to help build that play up. Lately, we've been playing a little bit less through the middle. I think that's an adjustment that Mota has made to give more balance. Still, with playing down the wings in his style, it requires midfielders to contribute to finding and opening up space. And Locatelli's been given a sort of free rein to go go from the left to the right to facilitate that possession. And then instead of passing back, he's been told to look upfield and deliver forward-looking balls. And that is accurate long balls, accurate switches of play. And you can see that in his passing statistics. And you look at his touches per game. Yesterday is an exception to that because Cambiasso was everywhere. We'll talk about him. But in general, the games that Locatelli plays, he is one of the top leads in one of passing and touches. And it's because he's demanding the ball, he's showing to the ball, and then he's facilitating our style of play.
Loca. Definitely a joy to watch. And people are asking, how come no Italy call-up still? There's got to be something going on, something personal. I hope that fixes. We could definitely use a strong Juve backbone in the Italian squad, as always.
I mean, I agree, but maybe selfishly, it's like, you know what? Maybe it's not the worst early in the year. Give him a little rest. Make sure he doesn't pick up an unnecessary knock. I think right now where you're not necessarily competing for anything, as you adapt to a new manager, it gives him more opportunity too. I think guys like him and Fagioli, I don't think Fagioli was called up to the most recent squad either. Give them an opportunity to continue to work with the coach. And they both players like them have been so integral to many of our games this year and the success that we've had. So I think that's kind of, maybe a silver lining to not getting called up is it'll benefit Juventus a little bit more in the short term.
Are you saying you're a glass half full kind of guy?
In general, I would say I'm a glass half full kind of guy.
What's
that setup? What's that setup for?
Nothing. I love that you're a positive side of the Turin Giants podcast, because I'm a glass completely empty kind of guy. But speaking of empty, look at that segue. Finally, 11 years of doing the podcast, and I'm mastering the segue. Speaking of empty or empty nets, so 9 clean sheets in 12 Serie A matches. Juventus is the only team with the most clean sheets in the Big 5 European leagues in 2024-25 season. No goals for Como, Verona, Roma, Empoli, Napoli, Genoa, Lazio, and Udinese, and now Torino. That's huge.
I think, it's always nice when you're able to single out a stat like that, offensive or defensive side. I think it's always nice to call out and to laud the team for that contribution. I think what's more important than having clean sheets is making sure that the manner by which we get those clean sheets is demonstrative of good play. I mean, because you'll have those games, but then you'll have, we've been conceding a lot in Champions League, obviously harder competition, pound for pound. We had the 4 goals against Inter. We had 2 goals against Parma. So I think we have to balance the praise with saying that, there's still been some work we have to do. Those games that we've conceded have been more recent, right? We started the year off with all those clean sheets in both competitions. I think now we say, hey, we have to continue to do the right things in a Bremerless Juve. And I think if you look at the Torino game, you saw the balance of the team, the slight adjustment in tactics and possession, less 3 at the back, more 4 at the back with Locatelli fitting in the 4th and so forth, to give us balance, knowing that we don't have the speed and strength of a guy like Bremer to just clean house if things were to just fall apart.
Bremerless Juve is the saddest combination of 2 words I've ever heard. I hate that he got injured so early in the season. At least we would have like a summer for him to realistically, I've talked to people about ACL injuries, and maybe I don't know. I'm trying to be a silver lining kind of guy, but
Glass half
Ideally,
full.
is it glass half full, man? Ideally, is it better for a defender or an attacker to uh, who comes out of it with more mental strength? Because when you get an ACL, I've talked to people who had those injuries. It's really hard to come back because it's always in the back of your head. How am I going to put my foot wrong now? And you're always afraid of ripping that tendon again. So I really hope it doesn't affect a defender like Bremer.
I mean, it depends on I mean, obviously, from a mental standpoint, you can't speak to it. That's on the individual. Physically speaking, and I'm not a doctor, but when you think about physical injuries like that, the effect on the athlete is going to depend, I think, directly towards the position that they play. Chiesa was a player that relied on his pace, I think, to kick the ball back behind defenders and run onto it. Right, that was a big thing that he's done, since Fiorentina. And
A lot of cutbacks.
When you have a player like that who injures a knee, have serious knee injury like that, that goes fundamentally to how they play. I think a defender, certainly pace is a part of Bremer's game as well, but I think it's not as core to his identity and play style than it is for Chiesa. And so with that sort of layperson's medical analysis, I mean, you're the doctor here, right?
Well,
but from that layperson's analysis, I'm less worried if he can conquer the mental aspect of it and say, the PT and all the therapy he does is successful. I'm less concerned about him coming back from a knee injury than a guy like Chiesa because of the nature of Chiesa's skill set and play style.
Here's what happens. Bremer comes back last game of the season. We're tied with Inter, and he scores the winning header, and we win the Scudetto. Predicted. You heard it here first. You mentioned Cambiaso. Boy, man, God, I love that man. The Swiss knife of Juventus currently. So there's an article on Cambiaso on footitalia.com. Andrea Cambiaso has emerged as Juventus's unexpected game changer, making a significant impact across all areas of the pitch. In just 4 days, his offensive runs led to a penalty against Lille and set up Timothy Weah's goal in the Turin Derby. Fans and media outlets are lavishing praise on the only 23 years old. Man, did next gen work out for us or what? 23-year-old former Genoa and Bologna player describing him as the best, doing everything well, and an unstoppable train. Oh, well, we got another train. Shout outs to Lichtsteiner, who follows us on Instagram, and we got another train running up the sides. Huh? Cambiaso has been amazing.
Did Cambiaso play for the next gen, though? I didn't think he was played for the next gen. I thought we bought him out of Genoa, then we immediately loaned him to Bologna, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
I don't think he was technically
I guess
played
not.
for our Serie G side.
Thank you for calling me out on my mistake. But yeah,
that's my memory, though. It could be wrong.
No. You're fine. You're absolutely right. So, speaking of age, it's like a foggy stat, but Juventus fielded the youngest team in Champions League history.
I think it was for Juventus because on average
I don't think it was for Juventus, but I think it was
because average age, from an average age standpoint. Now I don't know about the fielded team aspect. From an average age standpoint, I think we have the second lowest in Serie A behind Parma, and the second lowest in the Champions League as well. And my memory's not recalling who, but clearly, forgive us for not remembering the stats. We have a young team.
Young team. I think it was 24 years old. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's average. That's not the youngest player. That's average. But I love me a team, and I've said that on the podcast. I love me a team that is built from ground up, and then you get to experience the joys of a new stars coming up, and you just like having a team that is basically, I mean, we gutted the whole team, you can say. And I sent you guys a text message on the WhatsApp group where my kid was playing at his friend's house, and I was there. They were playing FC24, is that? I don't know. I don't play video games that much, but I just do the shooting games. First of all, great graphics. I really enjoyed it. But he played with the Juventus team of last year, and you can just see the quality. I mean, we had Kostic, Keane. Kind of a wrong time to bring it up since he just scored a hat trick, but God bless him. I'm just glad he's out of Juve. I don't know how well he would have done under Mota, but we'll just a lot of people chalk it up to Allegri not managing Keane well. But anyways, just we had Miretti starting for us, and where's he? Like, have you heard? I love Miretti. Don't get me wrong. We have awesome stickers on the website. Please go check them out. But
He's been struggling in an albeit poor team. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame, but the quality just went up so much, and there's just so much room to grow. I'm really enjoying the young talents showing what they're made of, and I think Cambiaso is the top guy out of those younger than 25 years old guys. So continue. Cambiaso's performances have not gone unnoticed. Italy's national team coach Spalletti now considers him a key player for the Azzurri in their Nations League campaign and upcoming World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, he got called up. He absolutely got called up. I mean, in last game, he had I think 20 more touches than the next highest guy in the entire game. So, team agnostic, 20 more touches than the next highest guy. And usually touches, the defenders, will win those because they just kind of pass amongst each other over the course of a game a lot. 20 more than anybody else. He had a 92% passing accuracy. He made those darting runs that we saw, whether it was the run where Coop delivered that beautiful through ball and he had the shot that unfortunately went over, whether it was the run that cut through the middle that, on Weah's goal from the deflection. And he was everywhere on both sides of the ball, winning defensively, being very influential in the attack. And I think that goes towards his characteristics as a player. I mean, we've kind of waxed poetic about him all year, right? It's hard not to, seeing his versatility and his influence on a game. But when you look at how yesterday panned out, and I want to talk about this because it's kind of an ongoing debate, right? Should Yildiz play more centrally? And in our current team, with a guy like Cambiaso playing inverted, the answer is probably not. We won't see Yildiz playing more centrally. And yesterday showed you how they can work with each other to be both successful in a game. You saw the Yildiz drawing defenders, creating a channel on the left side that Yildiz used to run up through the defense several times. That only happens when Yildiz pulls defenders wide. Then you have Thuram that we mentioned cycling in behind to provide the defensive balance that Malta has talked about. That interplay that we saw just time and time again is the success of a midfielder, not necessarily Thuram, but then Cambiaso and Yildiz playing off each other. And then at the end of the game, you have Yildiz still scoring a goal and Cambiaso being integral in scoring the first one. So I think everyone can eat in a tactical setup where Yildiz plays outside.
Love it, but I think there's one player we're missing. It's my new son. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, De Ligt, I had to let go of my son after he joined Manchester United. I just can't stand for it. I have a new Portuguese son tearing up that right side, baby. How exciting is he to watch? Here, hold on. This is what defenders yell in their heads when they see Chico running at them, baby.
God! No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Oh, I should probably get a better version of this cut. But anyways, is he amazing to watch? Is he something that we've been missing for so long? Just quick paced, especially towards the end of the game. It seems like, if he comes out as a sub or he just has so much energy because he's so young and, he's trying his best, and it's just amazing to see him tearing up that right side. And should we talk? I know you're a notes kind of guy. Should we get into the game a little bit more?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked a little bit about both goals. I mean, if you want to just, while you're on the Conceição, talk about that second goal. It's you talk about it come on late as a sub. If I'm a defender, Yeah, I am screaming no. If late in the game, I need to then transition from a guy like Weah, who's fast, to then Conceição, who's quick as hell, and he comes on and he gets an assist. I mean, we talked about it a few episodes ago. I think you put it up on Instagram, where his production and the amount of time he's played for us. I mean, I think he's only started 4 games for us, and we're 16 games in the season. Him having, I think, 3 goals, 3 assists or something like that. It's just his production is crazy. He leads us in so many offensive and dribbling statistics. It's such a breath of fresh air. And then with Yıldız's influence on the games since the Inter game, which is what we were kind of calling for, you have a genuine balance and attack on the right side and the left side. And it's been wonderful to see. And it's going to force teams to really have to make some tough decisions on who they defend and how, because we're now coming at them from both sides with success, with pace, and with genuine goal scoring talent.
Yeah, he's definitely being noticed. So let's bring up some stats. Let's bring up some ratings from FOTMob.com. And you'll tell me if you agree with it or not. I know a lot of people disagreed with the Man of the Match award for Yıldız, but I feel it was more symbolic than anything. So let's see. FOTMob 8.1, top performer for Yıldız. I know you wanted to mention Coop Miners with a 7.2 rating. I was super happy to see Perin again. Another clean sheet for our boy. You were mentioning that Cambiaso deserved the Man of the Match.
Yeah, I thought his overall contribution. I mean, look, when it comes to the player match awards, goals always carry an enormous amount of weight. I'm not surprised Yıldız ended up. I mean, he had a great game, certainly with the goal making him top scorer. I think the player that was most influential in our overall play and performance was Cambiaso, and his influence on both sides of the ball, with Locatelli also having really good influence on both sides. I think you mentioned Coop. I think this was maybe Coop's best game for Juventus. I know we don't have a huge sample size on it, and of course he didn't get a goal or an assist, but I think he demonstrated not only his attacking potential. I think that Cambiaso to Coop Miners free kick routine that they did, that was beautiful. He's had a couple of disallowed goals in the last couple of games.
Didn't he score against us like that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Coop Miners mirrored the goal. He tried to mirror the goal, but he did score against us on this trick free kick. And there's nothing more. There's nothing I love more than a drawn up play from a training.
Well executed training down free kick.
Love it.
It's beautiful. It's
okay.
beautiful.
We'll get him
it
next
out.
time.
Yeah. But unfortunately that one didn't. But I think in addition to you seeing him start to get more comfortable in our attacking play, you also saw his vision in the passing game. I mean, there was I think it was a sort of a no look through ball, and I don't remember if it was to Dusan or to Timothy Weah. He had a beautiful through ball that Pogba-esque to Cambiaso during a run through the middle in the first half. His vision upfield really was demonstrated in that game, and I was really pleased to see him playing the way that I envisioned him playing in our team. I'm not concerned that he hasn't had the goal or assist yet. If he plays like he did yesterday, that's going to come. I'm not concerned at all.
So future vision for Coop Miners, like how do you see him and what player, just as a reference for our listeners and for myself, what player from Juve of the past 10 years you see Coop Miners mirroring more or less? And it's okay if you don't know, like you said, we don't have a much sample size yet, but he's definitely not Vidal.
No. The thing is with him is you kind of can, he's kind of in some ways, and I don't mean this negatively, but sort of the Frankenstein's monster of midfielders, where you take good things from so many of our midfielders past. I mean, you talk about the physicality of Vidal. Coop's got it. You talk about the passing range and vision of a Pogba. He's got it. You got the goal scoring potential and so forth, the leadership and sort of the poise of Marquisio. He's got it. Okay. And so from an upside potential, when you look at a game yesterday, he did work on the defensive side. He dropping a little bit deeper. The previous game, we had almost a 4-2-4 in possession where he was up with Vlahovic a lot, denied himself the ball. And that was a little frustrating for me to see against Lille. He dropped a little bit deeper against Torino, was more involved in both phases of the play, allowed him to demonstrate that full skill set. And I'd like to see that more often because he can have that influence on anywhere on the pitch, in any phase of play. He can do it. And assuming he's either getting or now fully fit again, I expect to see that moving forward. And like I said, I'm not scared or worried or concerned that the goal and the assists haven't come just yet. If he plays the way that we know how he can play, like he did yesterday, that's going to come.
Yeah, so Cambiaso, I don't know if I mentioned the rating, 7.9. Cambiaso is just a joy to watch. Just kind of trying to go to the Where is 7.9. Certainly seeing a resurgence of Where, which is so nice to see. The American kid getting on a score sheet again. Is that like 3 games in a row that he scored, or?
I think it's 3 and 4. I think it's 3 and 4 because he didn't score in the last game, I believe. But and you've seen him now score in 3 goals. I think it's in 4 games, maybe 5. But from both the left and the right winger spot, he's making really intelligent runs. These goals he's coming with are really well-timed, well-positioned runs. A lot of times to the back post, and
poachers finishes. That's what Dusan should be doing.
Well,
but I know
talk about segue. There you go. Where's our goals going to come from? We've been talking about it, right? We talked a lot in the preseason. Well, we got 2 goals and 1 assist this game from our wingers. You're seeing that our wingers are going to have to do that. I mean, we talked last podcast that in 15 games, you have Dusan who has a goal contribution in 2 of every 3 games. So you can't really hate him on it for that, right? But there's a lot of worrying signs when you talk about his touches, his passes, and so forth. Our offense has to be driven through our wingers. I think that's a clear lesson from the first 16 games that we've had. And when guys like Weah are making the right runs at the right time, who cares if it's a tap in at that far post? Someone needs to be there, and someone needs to be there at the right time. And he's shown certainly recently that he is reading the play in the right way to have that influence. And that is great to see from a guy many of us thought would maybe from a winger standpoint be towards the end of the bench. Right, if you have Nico and Chico and Yildiz who are who are starting for us, where's Weah in the mix? Well, Weah has now told Mota and told the fan base that you can't count him out. In fact, you can't keep him off the team sheet. You score 3 goals in 4 or 5 games, he better be on that team sheet. Type of thing.
Sorry, fixing the audio real quick. Check.
You sound beautiful.
There you go. Thank you, buddy. And one last thing. I know there's a very important game for Juventus that's coming up. Unfortunately, we didn't time it well. But Napoli's playing Inter. So Inter are 24 points, 5th position, 1 above us, but we're tied on points. So we're, as always, kind of rooting for a draw that will take Inter.
Yeah.
4 points, 1 point above us, and we're just trying to keep Napoli at bay, which is so funny because first top 4 has 25 points, and I know we want Juve to win. I know, but it's going to be an amazing season from the points and the kind of a equal play and equal teams. It's going to be a great season. But as always, we're hoping for a draw. But man, Conte is looking dangerous.
It's just exciting right now. I mean, when you have all those teams up there, Atalanta playing well, you have Lazio who we beat, fortunately, but who we beat up there. Atalanta is playing real good ball. This is really showing, I think, demonstrating the strength of Serie A right now, and I hope it obviously translates into a Juventus Scudetto. But I think it's good for the league. I think it's good for Juventus. And I'm excited moving forward, and certainly hope it translates to the European stage as well for coefficient purposes.
Absolutely. So one last thing we want to mention is the Juventus schedule. You said, you mentioned the international break, much needed. I used to hate international breaks when you're younger, when you have nothing but football in your life, but I kind of welcome them now, where you just want to take a break, get your affairs in order, and then you feel super excited a couple of days before Juventus comes back. So the schedule is looking Saturday, November 23rd. We're visiting San Siro against Milan. And then November 27th, 4 days later, we are in the Champions League visiting Aston Villa. I'm sure I pronounced that terribly. And then December 1st, Lecce. We're visiting Lecce again. And Bologna Juventus, December 7th, Motta's return. I wonder how they will greet their savior. I always thought about how that must suck. You make it to the Champions League, and then a few reasons that took you to the Champions League, they're no longer there. Calafiori is now in Arsenal, and Motta,
Xerxes as well.
Hey, yeah, there you go. At least they're there, right? Boys and girls, thank you so much as always for joining us for this edition number 266. Like I mentioned, season number 11 for Turin Giants Podcast. I always mention that we're not one of those pandemic podcasts. We've been doing this. And Zach, as always, a pleasure having a professional like yourself join us and break down the game. We should have a podcast with the whole crew, but people just been busy, man. Once you hit 30, it's difficult to, just like Kevin. I mean, he dropped out about 20 minutes to go. I tried to get a couple of people on, but everyone's busy. But you know what? We did it. Alessandro Belpiero approves. I want to show Alessandro Belpiero actually to the audience. My poor lighting here, but yeah, basically it's a bell with Del Piero's sticker on it. He's been a huge part of our podcast. It's been 3 of us here. Any last thoughts, Zach?
I just want to thank everyone who listens, and especially the people who engage with us on social media as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, people have been really nice, replying at it. People just want content. We will be present on YouTube a little more, by the way, if you want to check out Zach's awesome shirt. How long did that take, that third kit? How long did that take for you to receive it in the mail? Because I know people were waiting for like 2-3 months now.
Man, I got it immediately. Like I went, as soon as it was released, I ordered it. I've had this, and they got that first batch out immediately. So I've worn this.
Does this one have a sponsor on it?
Nope. I didn't want anything on it. I didn't want anything on it. I want to clean. I've worn it to work a couple times. I love it. I absolutely love it. So for those of people on the fence, I'd say it's a beautiful kit.
I don't think anyone's on the fence with the third kit. It's just so beautiful. People like random people wearing them, not even Juve fans. Hopefully it'll bring some fans, because some kids, they become Juve fans if they're gifted a jersey or shirt. Like we've talked to people on this podcast where, somebody went to Italy and they brought me back a jersey. So yeah, they're doing the right thing. Boys and girls, check out the podcast on all podcast platforms. Please follow us on Turin Giants on Instagram, at Juve Podcast on Twitter. Excuse me. Hope you enjoyed this. We'll be back. Shout outs to everyone who listens regularly. I kind of blanked on that, but that's my cue to say goodbye. I'm running out of words. Boys and girls, stay hydrated, check on your friends, and Forza Juve.
In the middle of a railroad track, moved around thunderstruck. Went down the highway, broke the limits, we hit the town. Went through the Texas, yeah, Texas, and we had some fun. We met some girls.
Once again, happy birthday to the GOAT.